Those who willingly took a provisionally approved novel technology product, but without a genuine informed consent process, and the many thousands who took 2 or more COVID injections unwillingly and against their better judgment in order to keep their job and their ability to care for their family. In November 2021, 40% of employed New Zealanders were given a stark ultimatum: submit to compulsory COVID injections or pack all your workplace belongings into a box and leave the premises. As they left the healthcare or education premises, many were also told that if they returned tomorrow, they would be legally trespassed from the property. The medical exemption system, supposedly in place to ensure New Zealanders with legitimate medical grounds would be exempted from these mandates, was a cruel, abject failure. Virtually no one with legitimate grounds qualified for a medical exemption, not even those who were injured by dose 1. If they were lucky, they were given a temporary exemption for 12 weeks to supposedly allow recovery from their vaccine injury before taking the second compelled dose of the very same product that harmed them in order to keep their job. At the very same time that Pfizer themselves stated that an allergy to ingredients was a contraindication for use, the New Zealand government mandated people with a known allergy to the ingredient PEG to take the next dose, but this time in a hospital with a crash cart and a resus team. At the Health Forum, we received literally thousands of emails from the victims of the medical mandate system. 2,000 of their stories were submitted to the Human Rights Commissioner in person during a meeting in early 2022. The same distressing emails were then also submitted to the New Zealand Royal Commission of Inquiry in November 2025. Sorry, not November. It was about 3 months ago. Now we wait until February 2026 to see the findings of the Royal Commission of Inquiry. A heartless whitewash or an unexpected, factually accurate tome of history detailing deception, obfuscation and gaslighting at the very highest levels. Many of those who lost their jobs through vaccine mandates have never returned to their vocations, too wounded and disillusioned to continue in their profession, instead turning to wildly different lifestyles and jobs. For some, in retrospect, the mandates and job loss turned into a blessing in disguise, but for most, the wounds still run deep and wide, and trauma and pain remains. On our active social media platforms, the Health Forum NZ, we sometimes see passers-by admonishing us for still writing about the COVID years. Instead, we should all just, quote, move on, they say. Almost 5 years after the first rollout of the Pfizer mRNA in New Zealand, there are many thousands of Kiwis who would give anything to just be able to move on. But broken hearts, minds and bodies, along with ongoing financial hardships, serve as a daily reminder of the personal cost they continue to pay. The cost of rolling up a sleeve, taking the Pfizer mRNA, and then quite literally watching their world fall apart. I speak, of course, of the silent and silenced New Zealanders who were physically harmed by their COVID injections, and the many others who continue to grieve loved ones who passed away suddenly and unexpectedly in the hours, days, weeks or months after their Pfizer. They joined the global family of COVID vaccine harmed, a family the size of which we cannot fathom, with voluntary pharmacovigilance reporting systems with between 1% and 5% of actual adverse events ever reported. The numbers are still breathtakingly high. 68,000 COVID injection adverse event reports in New Zealand, including nearly 200 post-vaccination death reports. MedSafe acknowledges a likely 5% of actual events are ever reported to them. UK government pharmacovigilance systems have received 496,000 reports encompassing more than 1.6 million individual medical events. 370,405 of these events marked serious. Serious events are those which lead to hospitalisation, significant medical injury, and/or permanent injury. In America, over 1 million adverse event reports have been filed, including nearly 20,000 post-vaccination death reports, just for the COVID injectables. For many of those injured or bereaved from around the world, just like the New Zealanders we remember today, COVID will never be over. Instead, they will carry with them physical disabilities or a broken heart, perhaps forever. I want to close by sharing a small part of a recent post I wrote and shared on our Health Forum platform. Nearly 5 years after the start of the madness, I sometimes despair that so many remain entrenched in ignorance and judgment. I see it in our threads daily, and it always disturbs me. The vaccinated and the unvaccinated who remain scornful and dismissive of the mRNA injured. Those who chose not to take the injection and heap scorn on the injured who did take it, gaslighting them with, "You had a choice." And I wish upon wish that somehow I could impart in just a few words the many thousands of stories our followers have personally shared with me. Their agonies, both physical and emotional, their unique, complex, personal circumstances driving their decision in one way or the other, feeling trapped, pressured, coerced, manipulated, and powerless to make a different decision. The painful consequences they lived with, physical injury from the product, gaslighting and abandonment by those tasked with a professional or moral obligation to help them, and others tied by love bonds who simply choose to look the other way. The loss of job, profession, money, mana, security, homes, marriages, and more, faced by those who refused to comply and lost everything in the name of a still experimental injection. So much suffering. Nobody is coming to fix the suffering and the separation and the division. Only you can do that. You and me and us. We do it by choosing the higher road over and over and over again. We do it by choosing compassion and care instead of judgment and aspersion. We do it by reaching out with a kind word or an act of service, leaning in towards someone who is hurting, whatever decisions they made during the warfare of COVID. We do it by first and foremost cultivating our humanity and our ever-present awareness that there but for the grace of God go I. Only by finding and forgiving each other once more will we unite in solidarity and sincerity to weather the certain tide of change that lays before humanity as a whole. We are each other's best hope. Choose love.